Man.
What's doing?
I am doing great, man. Thanks again for doing this.
For sure, man. It's funny. It's like, yeah, it's this is legit coming out of retirement. I think it's been, gosh, man, probably close to a year since I've done one of these, and I was ripping them off on the weekly. And then your message just felt like a good vibe, and I'm here.
I love it, man. Yeah, I knew it had been a while. I knew you had a lot of stuff going on with family and life changes and all of that. So, the important stuff, right? Sometimes we got to step away from all this nonsense.
Yeah, yeah, well said, man. Now it's coming into the balance and being able to allow both worlds to coexist with your focus and priority allocated as they matter to you.
Absolutely, man. So I'm going to get started. I want to tell everybody a little bit about your background, but I think a lot of people are going to know it, and I'll add, sort of to it. But you started the Beard Club, which has been massively successful. I'm also very stoked about the timing of this because for the first time ever, I think my beard's a little longer than yours. Um, so I'm pleased with that, especially as a long time, customer of the Beard Club. It's like, all right, finally, I'm getting there. Uh, but you did that. You've won deals on Shark Tank. You did Cool Box. You've owned restaurants. Like you've done a whole lot of stuff. But what has always helped me the most is just hearing your approach to how our mind works, how you've used that, to your success, and every different business basically that you've approached. And one of the things that I'm always teaching people is that our thoughts become reality. So we've got to make, really good sure that we're having the right kind of thoughts. And inevitably what comes up is people struggle with maintaining that, right? That it's more than just thinking positive, and they want to know. So I'm going to start with this question for you. How do you maintain that right mindset so that you can manifest, the life that you want, the business that you want, the results, like all of that?
Well said, man. So back onto the grid and into the game to talk about this kind of stuff and through such a different lens. It feels cool and it feels fun because I went through my own spiritual awakening of some sort when I started talking about thoughts manifesting your reality. And I always talked thinking cool and outside of the box and doing things different, but I didn't see the actual correlation between a thought that I think in my head going through visible coming to fruition. So after I tested it myself multiple times, then I would literally think of things and then go outside. And I was thinking of a random hockey team or a brand of clothing and say, I want this to be like the next person I see. And someone would walk in front of me wearing what I was just thinking. I was like, okay, so reality is constructed as some sort of a game by powers that are outside of this dimension. And through reading stuff like Joe Dispenza, he's done a really good job of breaking down the languaging to wrap people's heads around how far out there it could be that every thought that we think affects how we feel and what's happening outside of us as well. This is what it comes down to. You can talk about it spiritually using terms like manifest, or you can talk to it in like a scientific way, just calling it quantum physics. And that's what it comes down of, like what's going on behind the curtain of life. So back to your question about how do we use our thoughts to create and how do we make sure we're always thinking good, is the first thing is you have to take ownership for this is the way that it works, because we're all entitled to our own belief system. You're entitled to believe that what we're talking about right now is not true. And there are certain truths that exist, and whether you believe they're true, they still are. But your belief affects how your thoughts interact with these truths. So being able to think positively takes ownership. This is the difference between unconscious thoughts and conscious thoughts. Are you choosing to think thinking it on its own?
Right.
And a lot of times you could just be doing the dishes and your mind is just running, like thoughts are running through your head. And only if you step kind of back and look at yourself doing the dishes and just go, whoa, okay, what was I just thinking of? And then focus on doing the dishes, focus on cutting the grass, focus on typing on the computer, and see if there are thoughts running on their own. Will you be able to start creating conscious thoughts? this can be tiring. It takes ownership. And that's why a lot of people live unconsciously and have bad habits. And they just go, you know what? I'll change next year. I'll wait till January 1st and I'll make a New Year's resolution because that's when the rest of the world changes. So yeah, in a nutshell, man, taking control of your thoughts, changing them from unconscious to conscious. And how can you do that? Journaling. Mudras with your fingers. You touch these two together. It's a great anchor that as soon as they touch, you breathe. I bought a cool bracelet online by a company called Revibe, Revibe. And if you Google them, it was a solution that I found for a bracelet you wear, and it buzzes every 3 minutes. I'm not wearing it right now, but it buzzes every 3 minutes to work on focus. But I used it that every time it buzzed, I would take a deep breath in. So that would be my re-anchor to be like, what are you thinking right now? So that's kind of where I'm at on the thought game, and then think big and watch it happen and take action.
I love that. And I love the part of, having these triggers that can remind you. Like a couple years ago, I tried to do a big shift to be more present, be more self-aware, because, like you said, we can all choose our beliefs. And I realized that the world keeps trying to throw their beliefs on me, and what's urgent to them and what they think I should care about. And none of that was actually serving me. But the battle that I, still struggle with is day in and day out, making sure that I'm aware of what am I thinking. Like you said, even when you're doing the dishes or, just driving down the road or whatever, it's so easy, I find, in those moments for my thought process to just go way down some kind of dark road. And before I know it, like, wow, I'm, massively distracted. You mentioned journaling, which is something that I know you do. And I love it because I journal. One of the things I had heard you talk about was, setting our intentions and deciding, what we want and how we're going to show up. So I'm curious, do you write out your intentions every day or not? Like, what's that process? And then with that, can you talk a little bit about the importance of writing it out by hand? I get made fun of a lot because I'm still, pen and paper old school on some of these things, but I find that it's easier for me to just sort of get it all out. And, if I'm on the computer, I'm easily distracted by, a million different websites.
For sure. I'd like to say that I'm the perfect guy who writes them out every day, although that is what I intend to do. However, 30 years of rewiring your subconscious takes time, and setting up a good morning routine is important. I'm in a bit of a transition right now, actually moving to Florida. We just bought a beautiful home down here, and it's been a bit of travel with the new baby and Catherine. So on the move, it's not as much of like, you have your setup to write your intentions in the morning. I will say this though, when you do write them down, it's like the number one way to regain all of your willpower. And you can start with doing it in ways that seem like, why would I even do that? And what you do is you literally write down, I'm going to walk to the bathroom and take a pee, then walk to the bathroom and take a pee. Then when you come back, I'm going to go for a walk outside, I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to drive to the store to do groceries, come back. You'll start training your brain every do. That becomes unconscious. So you're like using your conscious mind to go into your unconscious mind, to rewire it, to respond, to do what you write, then back to your dude. It's how code runs computer programs. You write code and then you press play and it runs. So if you write down, I'm going to train like a beast for the next 30 days. I'm going to eat to action. I'm going to breathe deep 100 times a day. And you've trained your mind to do what you write. That's exactly what's going to happen.
I know.
So we've, Catherine and I have been practicing that like champions for the last probably like 6 months of like, all right, let's write a list. Let's consciously put exactly what we're going to do today. And then let's do it. And again, it takes thought power and thought time to plan out your day and your thoughts. If you plan it out, it will go according to how you planned it in your thoughts. If you don't, you usually become a part of somebody else's thoughts. And of course, there's room in there to come into rivers of flow and like, go with the flow, change with certain grooves and whatnot. But for the most part, the meat of it it's powerful. And in terms of writing it down versus typing, the way I would compare those two is like, maybe an old school squat rack in the gym versus like a resistance new school kind of cool machine squat rack that isn't quite as much with the load on you and stuff. So there are purposes for both of them. And I say that it's way better to be journaling, typing or writing than to not be journaling at all. And
Right.
if you have the ability to write it, the way that I define why writing it is so much more powerful, two main reasons. The first one is the sound, even though it's so subtle, of pencil going onto the paper or pen going onto the paper. Most of us, the very first time we ever heard pen or pencil going onto the paper was when we were 6, 7, 8 years old, like in our first years of school. And I find whenever I do something that in any way channels my inner child or something of like the inner creative kid in me and has some sort of an anchor to somewhere in my subconscious, it makes me feel more excited and more playful. And I didn't have computers in early school. Maybe this philosophy won't work for kids that are born now because they seem to be growing up on computers rather than journals. But I find that to be one powerful thing. And then the second one, which has a bit more, is that when you're holding the pen or pencil and you're writing, you think what you're going to write. The thought basically travels from your mind down your arm into your fingers. Your fingers move a certain way to put the lines on the page, making words, and you're simultaneously taking in the information that you're writing through your eyes to cycle through your brain, think the new thought. So it becomes kind of like, pistons firing. I'm not making a fool of myself here, but pistons firing on an engine.
I'm going with it. Like, yeah, that sounds right.
Fair enough. I like those cars. I've just never pulled apart an engine, but and there's a fluid state of momentum that takes place with the writing with your hand, thought to hand to read, thought, hand, read, and you just get into a flow journaling. Whereas on a computer, you better put your stuff on airplane mode and make sure no notifications are coming up. Have Flux running on your screen, which is a cool program to reduce the blue light in the background, and don't have a cluttered desktop. So there are things you have to take in, and then it's still not tapping the keys. I find, however, best journaling you can possibly do is writing it. Second best is typing it, and they're both winners.
Yeah, man, I like that. And, I've found, we homeschool our kids, and often in teaching them, just writing and art and these things, they can look around at other kids and realize like, wow, like it's almost this lost thing that they are, not just growing up on computers and things like that. And they certainly use those, within limits. But I like that process. So like I said, it allows me to get just more clear on, what I'm really thinking. And, it's the computer for me, too easily distracted, even the cell phone. Man, so here, one of the questions that I had asked some of my clients, to send in to ask you, a lot of them were the same. And then selfishly, I was like, you know what? It's my time. I'm going to jump in with my question first. So, right, screw those guys. I'm going to go with mine. So here was something that I'm going to throw at you that I think will help a lot of people. And I know, let me give a little context. I know you've read the book, The Mastery of Self. And, one of the things that a lot of those books are about, the whole different sort of series, is we wear these different masks, and there's certain levels of that, that are healthy. I'm obviously going to be a little bit different around my wife than I am a client or a stranger or whatever. But I have found in business and just my life that I often take that to an extreme, and I allow others and even other situations to dictate who shows up, like what version of me shows up. And often then when I'm alone, that's exhausting, and I don't really feel, fulfilled, or like, hey, I want the people to know me. So how do you not necessarily find who you are, but maybe maintain that consistency where you're Chris Stoikos on a podcast or on a viral video or, one-on-one, having a burger, right? Like, how do you maintain that where you're not allowing, society or just the different social situations to massively dictate how you show up?
Feel free to jump in at any point if I take this to be too long-winded and start talking for 15 minutes, because it's a very deep topic and it's powerful because it relates to every human being on the planet to some degree or another. The first thing I'll say is this. Dude, I'd be lying if I said that I was even close to perfect at it, because the way that you just asked the question of how do I keep to be this same person that keeps these personalities on my podcast, on my videos, on the way I appear, and all those sorts of things. However, that until you're getting one-on-one on this call, that's the mask that I wear for the media, using the terminology of this, right? So the lens that somebody would perceive me through, and how the world knows me in online and the Beard Club and Shark Tank and making money and entrepreneurial and all of that sort of thing, is a mask. I have a mask that I would have in front of my mom and my dad. I now have a very new one in front of my new daughter, and the way that I interact and speak. And then I'm a very different person too, just out in public, in terms of how I carry myself and interact with strangers. And it's a fine line, finding the balance of who you want to be and to who and to where. So I think the key is having your identity anchored in around your core values in your heart, so that regardless of who you are around the different people, all of your values and your center is the same, almost like a profound tree with, and it's so powerful that that tree is going to look very different throughout the 4 seasons of the year, but it's the same damn tree. And sometimes you can branches, sometimes they're a little weaker, sometimes it's bearing beautiful fruit, sometimes the leaves are changing colors, but regardless of what season you know that tree in, everyone who talks about that tree is going to kind of describe it in the same way, because it's strong. So one of the things that you mentioned was becoming somebody to other people, as a response method. So I'm big on proactive living and not reactive living. And I think that's where it becomes a problem. And this was a problem for me at many points on my journey, because as you could imagine, the making big money online as an entrepreneur and some of the cool fame that came with that, and just that Beard Club kind of had like this rock star feel to it. I met a lot of people in a lot of places, over a lot of different times. And a lot of those times, because I hadn't done such of the amazing emotional work I've done on my year, and I hadn't tapped into some of the incredible spiritual stuff that's really changed the way that I think and operate, my values were easily swayed by who I was around, from like, oh, this could be a crazy business deal. You know what? I'm just going to do this even though I don't want to. Or that's a sick party tonight. What celebrity is going to be there? Dude, forget the project that we're working on. Let's go to this party. And that's when you become a reactive chess piece on somebody else's board. And not that you always want to be in control, or game is by any means a game of chess, but chess is a cool analogy in that you want to be able to see moves ahead. You want to know that what you're going to do now, how is that going to affect me later, and kind of have a strategy. And then, because life isn't a chess game, yeah, you sometimes just pull all the pieces off the board and have fun. So it's important to establish your core values, and to establish those based off of, I think a lot of times where it's tried and true, is what did you enjoy doing as a kid? And I personally got pretty far from that in certain aspects of my journey, doing the things that I loved. So now re-anchoring my core values around being with somebody that I'm in love with, having another one on the way, playing a ton of hockey, living in Florida now, which was my favorite place on the earth growing up to come as a kid. All of these things have really altered who I am inside. And flipping that back to the audience, you can do a pretty cool journaling exercise. Just write down what you're doing in your day-to-day now and over your life, and what do you like about it and what don't you? Who do you become in front of other people that you don't like? What people bring the best out in you, to kind of go with that saying, like, this person brings the best out of me, or that person brings me down. So if someone brings you down, there's something to look at there. Yourself from what they're doing, and you want to clear that and then rise above it. But don't keep putting yourself through the same wheels and becoming someone you don't like, wearing a mask that doesn't represent your core, just because you think it was something you have to do.
And I love that. I think that's what's great about that is every single one of us can apply that. And I relate to it instantly because I'm thinking about how, like, Brooke and I have talked for a long time about moving to Florida. And one of the reasons is that I grew up going, on vacation to Disney, loved that. It was always a good time there, but also in any part of the state, I just like who I am, like just sort of the feel, the vibe, like who I sort of, become. And I'm a big believer, we're a product of our environment, not just in the people that we hang out with, but, our actual space and things like that. So I love that part of it. And, with that, one of the questions that we had that I think you touched on a little bit, but I want to mention it because I think this is something that specifically with entrepreneurs holds them up a lot, which was several people mentioned your energy. Like, hey, just a magnetic personality, good energy. And the questions were basically around that were either, how do you maintain that? Which again, I think we kind of just touched on, but you may have something specific to that. But then not just how do you maintain it, but what if someone is like, you know what? I'm not magnetic. I don't have that personality. That's not me. Maybe they can't, it holds them back creating content or, whatever, because they just don't think they have it. Right. Like I know with introverts, it holds a lot of them back because they tell the story that they can't do something because they're introverted.
Cool, man. So the first thing I would say is, for anyone who's going to be watching this, and because these questions came in from people knowing that I was going to be on it, there's a powerful point in something called tapping, which stands for EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. And I learned a lot about this from my partner, Catherine. She's a registered, certified tapping coach. And a lot of times we just have beliefs that were instilled in us somewhere along the course of our life. And you can go deeper into this and do sessions, really peel back the layers of the onion and unravel it. But just as a simple thing, there's a point right here in between these two knuckles. And if you just tap this point and say commands as simple as this, I let go of any beliefs holding me back from using my most magnetic levels of energy now. Then close your eyes and take a deep breath. I let go of any fear holding me back from having more energy and making awesome videos. Take a deep breath. And as you take the deep breath, visualize like a belief shooting out the top of your head. And by touching this point, which little bit behind that, there's a bunch of points in tapping, and they're all based off of the energy meridians of the body. Acupuncture and a lot of Eastern medicine, they put needles in certain spots. So acupuncture is when you puncture a point. Acupressure is when you touch or push on a point. So by tapping a point, you're actually activating the energy center there. So this is called a 9-gauge, and basically grab stuff from the central condensed. I encourage anyone who this sounds intriguing to go on YouTube and type in EFT for energy, EFT for anxiety, EFT for making more money, and you can tap out the beliefs. Wow. That's kind of from a energetic, spiritual standpoint. From a more practical standpoint, first off, always flattering to hear people talking about the questions coming in and say, how do you get Chris's energy? It takes me, I actually have to take deep breaths, and I've really found my center again this last year of focusing on not putting out so much energy. Because when I used to be like this in all of my interviews, and I was just so up to today, God, John, I love your beard, dude. It's so awesome. I love the website I checked out before. You're crushing it as an author. Let's connect after this. And I'm just so happy you came into my life. And I was running my wheels at that speed. Again, through the media, it all seemed pretty on the background, dude. There would be days where I would just, oh God, what am I doing? I'm zombie mode right now. Or I'd be like, you know what? I need to go out and just have 6 beers tonight and just sit down and fall my track of my healthy lifestyle. So finding the balance is key. And the way that I have so much energy that I've learned to consciously dial back, that have not a lot of energy, but access to a lot of energy, and they have to consciously learn to dial it up. So everyone has access to lots of energy. It's our chi, our life force. And there are actually cool exercises you can do, like qigong. If you Google that, or if you put that into YouTube, 10-minute morning qigong. There's a cool 10-minute exercise you can do in the morning to raise and balance your energy level. Just to know this, man. Years ago, the USA basketball team put together like a ridiculous all-star squad. I can't remember what year it was, but it just had all of the studs on there, right? It was probably like Kobe, LeBron, and 3 other ridiculous dudes, and they were beat by some team. I can't remember what country it was, but it was like one of the most utterly stunning upsets. And when you have 20 rock stars on one squad, you're not always playing your role. So know your role. Maybe if you're a lower energy person, like I know when I have some yin energy to balance my wild yang energy, the room is beautiful. The business partner that I started Beard Club with was very balancing. And my new main business partner in Beard Club is very balancing to my energy. So it's a beautiful thing. You just want to be able to find people that you fit together, because the best way to create anything on this planet, man, is through teamwork. And proper teamwork makes the dream.
Yeah, man, I love that. And, one of the things with that is, it's interesting to hear, sort of the process behind not just what you've done, but how you've grown and continue to grow and sort of do that journey. I think a lot of people look at your success and they think, that's impressive. They like the money. They like, the different, status symbols sort of that, you've achieved at hitting, 7 figures and, multiple companies and all of that. But the thing I think that's often overlooked is that to me all begins with ideas, right? Like, and just being creative and, going with that. Like, one of the things that I respect about you is your process for being creative and honoring that. I think a lot of, especially entrepreneurs, they just want to do the grind, and that's great. But like, to me, when you're in that creative state, that's where the magic happens, right? Right. So a lot of people then, though, they don't feel creative or they think they're not creative. What are some of the things you do to stimulate creativity? So, especially now, you've got the family growing. I know as a dad that some days, the distractions are there. I don't exactly feel creative. So I've got to put myself in a bit of a creative state. What's your process for that?
Cool, man. So the first thing is how much I believe everyone is just such a creative genius at their core, and not in a cliche way. I've just found basically the number one thing that stops people that want to be creative from being creative is, again, some sort of broken belief. So if you have hardwired into your subconscious that, let's say you work a job and you're on salary and it's a 9 to 5, you've had big ideas in the past of something cool in your life, and you've thought, oh, I want to do that. No, I can't. I have this job. There's no way I'll ever get out of it. You train your subconscious to not believe that you have the ability to create something big. So what is the point of being able to even think big or think of cool ideas or have flowing creativity if you've already fired a belief in your head that you can't get there? So right. The first thing is to kind of play a game with yourself and bypass that belief to eventually rip out the roots and toss it, is to just say, if I had $1 billion, if I had infinite youth, if the clock of aging had stopped and I had 1 year to be able to do whatever I want, what would I do? And write 2 pages about that. You can pretend it's going to be a fictional novel. That will start to get your brain going. Is he thinking about this? Is she thinking about this? Oh my gosh, there's actually possibility of this happening. And like anything, dude, you stretch before you go to the gym, before you lift weight. Your brain is a muscle, and stretching your neural pathways. I find the greatest way to stretch your neural pathways, warm up your neural pathways, is through excitement. And when you have motivation or inspiration, something behind it, the creativity flows effortlessly. would be the biggest way that I see that. And then also having a funnel for your creativity, because a lot of times people are very creative. They just don't realize they are because they're not creative in ways that are applicable to their own life. So a lot of people outside of them will tell them like, oh, I'll tell my little brother, dude, you're so creative. You have unlimited ideas. You could crush anything. And sometimes you'll be like, no, I'm not, man. I don't know if I could do this. He had this idea of making a cooking show called like the Chef, and he was going to be in the kitchen. He's in great shape. He works out like a champ, just cooking like all sorts of cool meals. And he had a lot of creative ideas. And he was like, oh, if they're so his creativity was in a lane of the shirtless chef, but he's not doing it. So all of a sudden, but I can see from the outside that he is.
Yeah, I love that. I resonate with that a lot. I used to own a real estate company, and even though I was achieving success in it, I stayed miserable because none of it felt creative, right? Like none of it like really just allowed me to do any of that. And it was actually my wife who was like, you're happiest and even get better results when you just do your own ideas than just following kind of what everybody does in real estate. And that was why I ended up selling that business, was because I was just bored out of my mind and felt called to do what I'm ultimately doing today, because I loved that the sky was the limit, and any idea you wanted to try, I can just try it. I'm willing to look stupid. So therefore, kind of whatever, right? I can just, try it. Real estate felt so limiting and just stifled any of that creativity. And I love what you're saying though, about everybody actually being creative, because that is something that if we had this conversation 7 years ago, I would have fought you on. I would have been like, I don't know. I know some people that just, they don't have good ideas. They don't have it. They're too, whatever. Since then, I've seen so many different types of people from all walks of life who each have their own way to be creative and, have that idea. I like what you're saying about, the being excited part really does, spark something, because I know that some days when I'm excited about the day, when I'm excited about what I'm working on or the message that I'm going to share, it's just a lot different when I sit down to work than when I'm not excited about it. And then I look at everything, as this massive challenge sort of thing.
So true, dude. Real quick to give a couple. So that was kind of the emotional side and the mental side of creativity. Some tangible quick one. Also do again on YouTube, if you just search classical music for creativity, there's some great stuff from Mozart, Bach, all sorts of different guys. And when you have that classical in the background, you're going to be stimulating different parts of your subconscious, which is feeding your conscious as you're looking to be creative. That's a great one. A cool exercise I kind of came up with myself is just to say out loud a lot of things that you like for a minute straight. And it's wild, dude. It scrambles your brain. So I'd go hockey, running, craft beer, good restaurants, tanning in the sun, going in the ocean, rare raw meat, grass-fed meat, organic meat, journaling, typing journaling, writing journaling, going for runs, hockey, white hockey tape, black hockey tape, and just start saying like all the kind of things around the things that you like out loud, and you're literally going to create excitement. Like I actually feel my body buzzing a little bit if I tune into it because I just said all these things. Because it's like, what the hell's going on? Are all these things about to come? You kind of scramble yourself with can create a cool floor for excitement. And then the last I'd say is things like Sudoku. Just a cool little mind stretch, man. Like they're simple. It's online. It'll warm up your brain. So get out a piece of paper, write an intention. My intention is to come up with a video for my new business. My intention is to have a creative idea of what to do with my family for my vacation next month. Write your intention, then do a Sudoku puzzle and watch the thoughts that slowly start to marinate because you set the intention and then you released it and occupied your mind by working it.
Oh, I love that. I love that because I love doing Sudoku, but I'd never set intentions before doing it. So here I am now playing games and I'm just wasting time when I could have been, really being productive with it. So here's something interesting. You are the only other person that I know that has read a book, The Master Key System, which I actually, so this is funny. My wife and I love it. We have two copies, her copy and mine, because apparently my handwriting isn't good. So she needed her own copy because mine's all marked up. But you've read that, and I'm curious. I mean, there's a lot of books out there that cover what's talked about in this book, which is a lot about, the power of our mind and what we can create and what we're capable of, and all of those things. So maybe not just what you learned from that book, but when you started to discover, the fact that our thoughts can become reality, what changed in your life? And if you want to even just do a business context, that's fine. But I'm just curious how, like, once you became exposed to that, I find people, they get really excited because now anything is possible. Then they almost get scared because anything is possible. And then they just sort of go back to the normal routine and they don't really, change anything. So I'm just curious, again, whether it's that book or just in general, what really, opened up your mind on just the power of what we can do with our brain. I mean, everything that you've shared with us even so far, is so incredible, but not everybody knows these things. So when you learned it all, then what did you do? How did you actually implement that in your life to where now, not that every business you're ever going to do is successful, but your approach towards business, your approach towards life in general, you're always setting yourself up for success.
Well said, man. Okay, the master key system.
We're going deep. I know this is the nerdiest thing ever, but you're the only other person I know that has even heard of the book. So we got to do it.
Even I'm telling you, it's like the word nerdy does have an umbrella over stuff like this. Cool guys of the world from getting into it, and I grew up heavily into computers and tech and wiring up Xboxes and different things in the nerd category, but I also really liked sports, so I struggled between, like, am I a jock or a nerd? And only a nerd would read Master Key System. So first off, Master Key System is for everybody, that's for sure, because it teaches you, it's a very spiritual book written in a very grounded language acceptable manner. Dude, it's tough. Like, I sit here and say to everybody, every thought that you the mind, feeling is the language of the body. I think that one feeling is a million times stronger than one thought. Thoughts are kind of like the gas that you pour on the feeling, so that if you feel anxious and you start dumping anxious thoughts like, oh my God, I'm going to worry, I'm going to go that, what am I going to do? Do I have enough money to pay off my bills? Did I have that person back? Those thoughts are the thoughts, language of the mind, feeding the language of the body, and the feeling is anxiousness, and then you go into anxiety. Whereas if you're feeling anxious and you can use the thoughts to go onto that and your breath to say, whoa, this is a wild feeling. Like, what does anxiousness feel like? It feels kind of jittery. I feel very hyper right now. I'm worrying about those things, but they don't actually need to be worried about because they're not huge problems. And this has happened before and I've gotten over it. You start to see things through a different light. And I tell that to people and to myself, because when I first kind of discovered that anything was possible as long as I think it, it was a lot to everything. Oh my God, I can create anything. This is scary. I got to be careful what I'm thinking right now. And those things would be a dance together. So journal out all of your scary thoughts. That's a great way to get them down and out. And then when you realize that anything's possible, treat life like the dream that it is. That's actually what I did when I had these realizations. I wanted to be, my whole dream as a kid was to be a pro hockey player. My entire life, I just wanted to play some form of pro hockey, but I chose the path of an entrepreneur. I always wanted to be in love with one person and have a family and raise kids. I always wanted to live somewhere sunny, and I was in California for a while, but Florida was deeper in my heart. But California was where the entrepreneurs were, and I had to be there. So all of these were buried in my subconscious, and then I was doing what I thought I had to do. So when you can come to the realization you can do anything and anything possible, I started thinking, I was like, I can't even describe to you the amount of thoughts I spent going, is it possible to make some kind of a comeback and play some form of pro hockey somewhere in the world? And then thought, fear, no way. Thought, fear, no way. Thought, it might be possible. Thought, no, it's not. Thought, oh my God, it is. Feeling, excitement. I'm going to rent the ice. I'm going to go get on the ice. Wow, I played like crap. I suck. There's no chance I can come back. No chance. Feel like crap. You know what? Maybe if I skate 3 more times, there will be. And you go through this battle with yourself. And I'm just analogizing.
Yeah.
But using hockey, family in Florida as examples in my life, I just started thinking them. I literally sat down and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to remember what it feels like to be a kid in Florida, going to my grandma's condo and playing board games with my brothers on the balcony. Gosh, that felt good. I'm going to remember what it feels like when my little cousins were born. And I remember holding little kids in my arms and thinking, gosh, I can't wait to have a kid of my own. But I'm not going to have a kid. You know, how long does it take to find someone and find true love and make sure they're your soulmate and your partner, and then have a kid and go through all that, right? So those are the thought, come back down. I want to play hockey, but can I do this? All those thoughts. Then I just thought, stop thinking of the thoughts and just start visualizing it. Start feeling it, which Master Key System teaches, the importance of visualization and seeing it. And I just started seeing myself on the ice more and more. I started seeing myself going, wow, I am going to some real love soon with somebody that I can have children with and be happy about it. And it doesn't need to be the society perfect date for 5 years, be for 2 years, then get married at this wedding and all that sort of thing. I found someone that was having similar thoughts, because thoughts are magnetic, which the teacher, after 4 months of being together, thought, do you want to have a kid? Like, yes. Do you? Yes. Let's make a baby. And then the rest as we go. And then that led to more love with a child. And like, oh my gosh, I want to teach my kid to do everything that they're going to want to do in their life. Well, what do I want to do? I want to play hockey. Okay, I need to take a stab at this. And I've been training for almost 6 months now on the ice, multiple times per week, in the gym, training like a beast. And the shape I've gotten my body into and my mind to now, this isn't just possible. It's going to happen. There's teams in the ECHL, which is an East Coast league. There's a league even underneath that called the SPHL, Southern Professional Hockey League. And there's 2 of them in Florida. And I actually believe with all of my heart, it's just a matter of time. I might need to train balls off for the next 2 years to get there, but I have the belief that it's possible. And I'm going to feel my childhood dream of playing on a pro hockey team in some league. And now I'm living in Florida. We came for a vacation to Florida a month ago. We booked a here flight, an return flight. We never got on the return flight, and we ended up buying a house. Actually, the offer got accepted yesterday, and now we're going home in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Just to pack up our other house and move back down here for good. And I've already found my new hockey trainers. We have our cute little new daughter. We found all the things in the surrounding area we want. So when I was Beard Club, entrepreneur, Hollywood mansions, lighting it up in all of these different ways, they were mind. They weren't like the core person that sits in my heart. So I still love, like I turned something in my heart about beards and making money into an incredible business and a lit up movement. And I'm still doing great stuff for the company. And we have some really cool videos coming out in the next couple months. I'm going to be making a comeback. And yeah, ultimately, if you're to check out the book, The Master Key System, and just know that anything that you truly dream can become your life. You're going to have to go through a lot of layers. It's going to be trials and tribulations and getting knocked down just so you can get back up and keep going. And as long as you believe and you take the actionable steps, the universe wants to support your greatest dreams. You are an extension of consciousness from an everlasting big friggin' ball of energy that feels the same joy that you feel when you follow your heart. So tap into it, find out what really matters to you, and then one step at a time and you'll get there.
I love that, man. And, you mentioned the Beard Club and you mentioned like what's coming, which just leads me perfectly into the next question, which I wasn't even going to ask you because I know this question gets asked just to people a lot. But you used to have a very long beard. You went short. and people online freaked out about this for some reason, as though like this is the only thing important in their life, right? Like, but it shocked me, and I saw you online like responding to the comments, and you were so gracious in your response, and it's just like it's amazing to me again that like people like I guess don't have enough things going on in their life like that they're good that they care like about that. I say that I started this whole thing off by taking a shot at you mentioning my beard was longer, but I had to, right? But the thing is how do you deal with haters, critics, whatever the kids are calling them these days? And I don't even know if you get a lot of that, but certainly you've lived a life where you've had success, and that makes people jealous, and that's different. You live on your own terms, and seemingly are you're going after big dreams like playing hockey, which a lot of people are so afraid to get out of their comfort zone to even go train, to even go for a big dream. And it seems like a lot of times when those people are too afraid to get out of their own comfort zone, they take shots at the people that have. So I'm just curious, like, do you even pay attention to that? Like, do you have a strategy for how you handle it? What does that look like for you?
Dude, I'll start where you ended. People who are afraid to get out of their own comfort zone take shots at people who have. So that is very true, man. Like the term, it's called a projection. It's when you have a built up emotion inside of you and you're not expressing it in a way that is satisfactory to your own being. So you project it outside of you and take a shot at somebody who has. So in the past, for sure, if I would read an Instagram comment that was just, tearing me up, one part of me would say, I'm Chris Stoikos from the Beard Club. I don't give a shit about what these clowns are writing. Pissed off. You wish you were me. And that was like, sure, a way that I coped, and a cocky form of my ego where like my sensitive inner side was like, God, I want everyone to like me. Why don't these guys like me type of thing. So now coming back around and referring to the post that you saw where I responded to it, that was actually the only time I ever responded when people were taking shots. And I just responded from like my heart in a cool, genuine way and explained the beard change. I literally thought back to times in my life where I was stuck in something and couldn't do something that I wanted to do. So let's use this as an example. There's somebody working a desk job that they don't like, and they want to be an entrepreneur, and they take a shot at me. You could rewatch all my podcast reviews and shots at people. It would be passively, maybe I've taken a shot at a clean shaven guy because there was some part of me that wanted to know what I looked like without my beard again one day. I would take shots at corporate businesses because maybe I was projecting upon their beautiful organized structure, and Beard Club was, running around the world, and like I could have been a better CEO at times. So when I saw the guys online saying that, there was a version of me as an entrepreneur, Chris, that really wanted to be playing more hockey. And because I wasn't, even though I was living a life that a lot of people saw as something they might want to live, I wasn't living exactly the life that I wanted to live, with like my main focus on sport and then a side thing. And again, I love the journey I took because it gave me the financial freedom that I have now to even have a prayer of training. The reason I've made such good progress in something like hockey, for example, is because I'm immersed in it. And I love that too. You said you're an extreme guy, I think.
Yeah.
With them. So one of the things, dude, like you said, in The Mastery of Self, Don Miguel said it best. He said, don't take things personally. People are projecting their own feelings. So when you can speak back to them in a heartfelt way, I look at it as healing a part of myself, because I'm not going to attract that comment again in the future by speaking to it. Because somebody who's getting ready to chirp me about my beard might look at my previous picture and go, good response. And then they don't write it because they saw I responded to it. And if I responded to it like a dick, they might come in, and shoot another comment. So just be heartfelt with how you respond to what society calls the haters. And quickly about the beard. Yeah, man, it was a wild change. I took it down to the wood. I had nothing, and just seeing myself in the mirror, I was probably in my early 20s the last time that I had that, and it brought up a lot of stuff, man. It brought up a lot of stuff that I didn't like about myself. It brought up a lot of I had been things that were unethical that I did or immoral, or, bad breakups or bad friendship breakups or ditched dreams that I covered up well with the beard by transforming my identity. And not that I became someone else. I was still me at my core, but it forced me to go back and deeply reflect when I shaved. And it also made me think twice about every guy that I would chirp for, clean shaven dudes about, why don't you have a beard? Everything's better with a beard. Like everything that I was for the beard club and that I enjoyed doing, then I was like, oh God, like what am I going to get back right now for all the people that I ever said this to? And I think there are cooler ways now to encourage people about the upsides about having a beard, while simultaneously respecting that everyone's face is their own real. And it's not, a lot of our videos make fun of when, your wife is controlling you and she makes you shave. What kind of man are you? Well, what kind of man am I if I'm also trolling guys and making guys that don't want to grow a beard now or ever or yet grow a beard? So I went through the cycle myself, the reliving of a lot of old stuff. I integrated it, grew from it. I changed my thoughts around it. And beautiful thing about a beard is that the second that you shave it off, you're already growing a beard, and it's always longer than when you started.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it's interesting because I have people that will often, the beard has become great branding for me, because they remember that more than they remember anything else. Like that's the big dude with the beard, like that's their thing, that they can kind of, remember. If I'm speaking at an event, I'm the tall guy with the beard. Like, they don't remember my name, but they remember, that. So a lot of people think that I grew it out for branding purposes, like that was, my thing. And while it doesn't hurt, for me, it was like, so the growing of the beard was the shedding of the old. It was, finally becoming who I wanted to be. I always wanted this. And you wouldn't, because of coming from real estate where things were more corporate and you got to have a tie and you want to be clean cut and you want all these things. And I can look back at like pictures and I want to punch myself, not because I didn't have the beard, but because I was living a lie then, that I wasn't just being who I wanted to be and not caring and just doing that. So it's turned into an amazing thing. So man, before we go, one last question, because we've talked about Master Key System, we've talked about Mastery of Self. Any other books or resources or anything like that that you encourage people to check out?
Yeah, the Wonder Weeks. This is a beauty right here about when you have a newborn, when they go through leaps, when they're supposed to cry more or cry less, or all over the place with their emotional stuff. But seriously, if you have a kid, it's a good book. On the entrepreneurial side,
which is a great reflection of where you are right now, right? That's your go-to.
Exactly. What do I got here, man? You know what? I'll say this. Get into the EFT stuff, get into the tapping world. So I actually haven't started this book yet, even though I know what it's all about and what it's going to do. This is about EFT and golf. So there's a lot of EFT you can use for any sport. And this talks about the tapping out of beliefs. Like, I think I'm on the green in 2. I'm about to sink this putt for birdie. I can feel the fear creeping up. All this fear in my gut. All this fear. What if I don't sink the putt? Oh God, I hope I sink the putt. It's good for me to see this fear right now and to know it's just a putt. I'll sink the next one if I miss it. So I'm just going to let go of all this fear out of my brain and nervous system now. And like, it'll eject the fear out. So that's on golf. You can do that for hockey. You can do that for baseball. You can do it for cornhole. You can do it for darts. You can do it for shooting billiards at the bar. You can do it for your business. Oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to have this big meeting. I don't screw it up. And there are, anger, guilt, fear, sadness. Those are 4 of probably the biggest main emotions that people have buried inside of them that prevent them from doing things. So I would get yourself a book on EFT. Educate yourself on what it means to become emotionally intelligent, emotionally aware, and to not be guided by the emotions of your temple. So that if you're feeling something, That's when people say that person acts out so emotionally. They're such an emotional person. They wear their heart on their sleeve. There are ways to channel that into pure productivity and beauty. There are ways to let it cause chaos in your life. And EFT for golf specifically, hence now that I'm living in Florida and I'm going to be doing a lot of golf, this is a good one. So EFT is also, if you Google EFT for business, you will find stuff out there. And there are a lot of tapping practitioners that teach EFT. I believe there's an EFT website. Do you know the EFT website, Kat? EFTuniverse.com, and you can find yourself a practitioner on there around you, book an appointment, say, this is what I'm dealing with in my life. I want to get more out of my comfort zone. I want to be better at this sport. I want to stop doing this so much. Dude, ask and you shall receive. And this EFT stuff makes it come true.
That's awesome. I've heard a lot about that and never actually read or studied it to learn. I've just, been very vaguely familiar with the concept. But if it can help my golf game and then maybe also business, I'm all for it because it needs all the help it can get. I'll just be standing there tapping the whole time because that's what it's going to take. Well, Chris, thank you for coming on and sharing with us. And if people want to connect with you or find out what's coming from you in the future, where can they go?
For sure. I have a new website going up in the next I'm going to put myself on it now to make sure I get it done, but it'll be up in the next couple weeks. ChristopherStoikos.com. Went back to the full name there. I used to have Crystal.com. Rebrand. So ChristopherStoikos.com will be up in the next few weeks. And if you want just right now, I'm back on Instagram. I went through kind of the shaving of the beard, and I also shaved every single picture I had on my profile, dropped a bunch of followers because people are like, what the hell, is this guy dead? Is he not coming back? Which was cool because I looked at that as a shedding of energy and new reflections, but I'm back on there. I think I have about 6 pictures strong, and check out. I plan on posting, here and there, and my Instagram handle is at @Stoikos. So CSTOIKOS.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man, for doing this. We appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me, John. Thank you to your audience for listening, and see you guys out there.